Good morning, everyone. This is Frank Albert at Davidson Violins. Wanted to take a moment today and talk to you a little bit about violin construction. On the internet, you can find a lot of very cheap instruments that look like violins, but really functionally are not. So let me briefly talk a little bit about that. Here we go. We'll start here with, so this violin, you know, if you take a look at this, I mean, it looks like a violin. It has the basic shape. It has holes on the top that are shaped like we'd expect. So it looks like one, but really it's not. And I can hold here a good student instrument beside it, and you can start to see some of the details. But let me tell you a little bit about the things that we want to see when we look at a good instrument. First problem with this instrument is that the pegs are not made of ebony or rosewood or another exceptionally hard wood like that. These are probably made out of maple, which is what a lot of the rest of the instrument is made from. The problem with maple pegs is that they aren't hard enough to avoid wear easily, so they wear out fairly quickly. When they wear out, they won't hold the string up to pitch. Also, they tend to stick pretty badly, and sometimes they can stick badly enough that you turn the peg and actually snap the peg off. We've done a lot of replacements of pegs because of that. Second thing that typically comes on instruments like this that are really under $100 in value is that the strings are often not strings that have been manufactured with damping in the string. You don't need that for guitar strings or banjo strings, but you do need those on violin strings. When they put that kind of string on, what you end up with is a very wiry sounding, almost banjo sounding string. In this case, we had upgraded for this customer, so these are actually a little better quality string than would normally come on this instrument. Then you'll notice here this white area that might seem strange to you, since normally that would be black. The reason why that looks like that is because I am attempting to lower this nut to the proper height for the student to be able to easily play. Now if you look real closely there, you can see how tall that is. I've already taken a millimeter or two off of that nut, and it's not anywhere near where it needs to be. A normal violin nut, you'll see here, you can see there's the height of the strings there at the nut is very close to the fingerboard. What that does is it makes it really easy to play. It makes it easy to play in tune. This instrument, if you had attempted to play this instrument in that condition, the strings would have been so high off the fingerboard, it would have been very uncomfortable. It would have made the boy's hands quite tired. Another feature of a real violin is the fingerboard should be made of ebony. It really doesn't work in any other type of wood. Unfortunately, in this case, this is also probably a piece of maple, and it's been painted black to look like ebony. The problem with this fingerboard is, first of all, the maple tends to warp fairly quickly. I've seen instruments like this where the fingerboard has warped up like this, making it completely impossible to play. That just happens over time because the wood's not hard enough to avoid what happens when the moisture gets in there and causes it to buckle, or when it dries out after the moisture has left. In this case, this fingerboard has lots of bumps and different imperfections in it, and what happens when you have that kind of fingerboard is that when you put your finger down to push a string down, frequently it will hit one of these other places. What we expect from a good violin, the fingerboard should be dressed, is what it's called, and that's basically a process by which it is sometimes planed and also sanded, so that it's just one place in the fingerboard that should have a very slight dip, and overall it should be very uniform all the way along. Won't get into the more technical aspects of that, but it makes a big difference in the playability. Another thing to note, this instrument for some reason didn't come with a sound post. Now, a sound post is just a small piece of wood like this, but it's a critical part of the sound production of a violin. In fact, in French they call it the ame, which is the soul of the violin. It sits inside the instrument right behind the bridge foot on the right side here. And the sound post, its position and its adjustment can have a very big effect on the sound quality of the instrument. So sometimes a really nice instrument will have a sound post that's out of adjustment, and it makes it sound bad, even though it's a good violin. In this case, they didn't send this with a sound post at all. So what that means is the vibration of the string coming through the bridge engaging the top of the violin. The sound post, one of its jobs is to transmit those vibrations to the back, so the back of the violin is engaged, and that's what really makes a violin a violin. If you don't have a sound post, then you're not engaging the back of the instrument. Another detail that we know is very important in violin construction is the type of wood that they use. In this case, this instrument was made with plywood. This plywood is very dense and has a lot of glue in it, and will not, it doesn't transmit, it doesn't vibrate very well. In the case of a normal violin, we expect it to have good quality spruce on the top and maple on the back and sides, and the wood should be aged, seasoned over a period of time, we hope, in a student instrument between 5 and 7 years before it's made into an instrument. So that's one of the reasons why you can't really make a true violin for under $100, because there's things like the time that it takes to season the wood, and then of course a good instrument is also handmade. So that's probably as much as we need to cover for today. I did want to point that out to you. So it has one other detail I'd forgotten, was the bridge. Now normally we like to see a bridge be a good quality piece of wood that's also seasoned maple. In this case, this wood is not seasoned at all. This is cut from probably quite green wood. And this bridge is not shaped correctly. It's too thick. It won't transmit sound very well. And this bridge is also much too tall for the fingerboard. In this case, this fingerboard is set so low, it's very likely I will not be able to cut this bridge so that the string height will be correct before I engage this heart. There are bridges they make where the heart is lower, but once we get into all of that, do a sound post, fix the bridge, really the person will have spent as much in repairs as they could have just to spend a little more and get a good violin that's well made. So I hope that helps a little bit, help you understand a little bit about violin construction. I really don't recommend buying these. If you want something that makes a good wall hanging, it works well for that. But if you want an instrument that's going to be suitable for a student to learn on, get them a good learning tool that's made well. And usually you'll find that at reputable sources. Usually, a lot of times, it's sources like violin shops or bowed string specialists. And some music stores do have good instruments, but be careful when you get on the internet, on eBay, Amazon. It's really important that you know the source of the instrument, that it's from a reputable company that sells string instruments, bowed string instruments, to the public. So I hope this helps you a little bit. If you got any questions, feel free to send us an email, info@davidsonviolins.com. I'd be happy to help you out. If you want to send us a picture, say I'm considering this instrument for purchase, can you give me some advice on whether this would be a good choice? We'd be happy to help you with that. Thank you. Have a great day.